My girlfriend always talked about how perfect her ex was and even suggested I take tips from him. So I dumped her exactly in the same way as he did. 29M, never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest. What started as a promising relationship turned into something I couldn't recognize anymore, and I'm still not sure if what I did was justified or if I stooped too low. We met at a friend's housewarming party last year. She was standing by the kitchen island, laughing at something someone had said. Our eyes met across the room, and there was this instant connection. You know that feeling when you just click with someone? That's what happened. We talked all night, exchanged numbers, and started dating a week later. The first 3 months were amazing. We'd spend weekends hiking, trying new restaurants, or just curled up on the couch watching terrible movies and laughing. She was smart, ambitious, and had this energy about her that drew me in. I found myself falling hard and fast. Then came the comments. Small at first, so small I barely noticed them. My ex used to make this pasta dish that was to die for. You know, my ex was really good at picking out wines. I didn't think much of it initially. Everyone has a past, right? But slowly, these comments became more frequent and more comparative. My ex always knew exactly what to say when I was upset. My ex never had trouble assembling furniture. My ex used to plan the most thoughtful dates. It wasn't just the frequency but the tone, wistful, almost longing. Each time she mentioned him, I felt myself shrinking a little. I tried brushing it off, telling myself I was being insecure. But the comparisons kept coming, and they were rarely in my favor. One night, after I burned dinner, I'm not the best cook, but I was trying. She sighed and said, my ex was such an amazing cook. He could salvage anything. I finally brought it up. Hey, I've noticed you talk about your ex quite a bit. It makes me feel like you're comparing us, and honestly, it doesn't feel great. She looked surprised, then apologetic. I didn't realize I was doing that. I'm sorry. It's just that he was a big part of my life for 4 years. I accepted her apology, and things were better for a while. She made a conscious effort to stop the comparisons, and I appreciated that. But then, about 2 weeks later, they started creeping back in. We were getting ready for a friend's wedding. I was struggling with my tie. I rarely wear formal clothes, and she looked at me with this mixture of amusement and exasperation. My ex could tie a perfect Windsor knot in seconds. Maybe you should look up how he did it. I froze. Did you just suggest I take tips from your ex? She rolled her eyes. Don't be so sensitive. I'm just saying, he was really good at certain things, and there's nothing wrong with learning from that. That night at the wedding, I couldn't focus on anything. While everyone was dancing and having a good time, I kept replaying her words in my head. Take tips from her ex? Who says that to their current partner? Over the next few days, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. Maybe I was overreacting. But the more I thought about it, the more it bothered me. I decided to bring it up again, hoping for a more productive conversation. I need to talk to you about something, I said one evening as we were having dinner at her place. The comments about your ex are still happening, and they're making me uncomfortable. She put down her fork. I thought we already discussed this. It's not a big deal. It is to me, especially when you're suggesting I should be more like him. That's not what I said. She was getting defensive now. I just mentioned he was good at certain things, like tying ties, and cooking, and picking wines, and planning dates. You've basically created this perfect image of him, and I can't compete with that. She sighed heavily. Look, we were together for 4 years. He was a big part of my life. Yes, he was good at a lot of things. That's just a fact. But why do you need to keep reminding me about it? I'm not doing it on purpose. It just comes up sometimes. The conversation went in circles, with her downplaying my concerns and me feeling increasingly frustrated. We ended the night on a tense note, agreeing to think about things. A week passed, and the comments continued. Some were subtle, others more direct. Each one felt like a small cut, nothing fatal on its own, but they were adding up. I started pulling away, creating distance between us. I was less enthusiastic about our plans, less engaged in our conversations. She noticed, of course. What's going on with you? She asked one night after I declined her invitation to a concert. You've been acting weird lately. I decided to be honest. I'm still bothered by the ex comparisons. They haven't stopped, and it's affecting how I feel about our relationship. She threw her hands up in exasperation. Not this again. I can't believe you're still hung up on this. It's not like I'm saying I want to get back with him, but you're constantly reminding me of how perfect he was. He wasn't perfect, she said. That's why we broke up. So how did that happen anyway? I asked, genuinely curious. We talked about previous relationships in broad terms, but never the specifics of her breakup with the perfect ex. She hesitated, looking uncomfortable for the first time. It's not important. I think it is. You've told me everything else about him. Why not this? She sighed. Fine. He just ended it. Said he needed space, that he felt suffocated. We were living together, and one day I came home, and he had packed his things. He left a note, and was gone. Blocked me everywhere. I never got proper closure. Something clicked in that moment. Her constant mentions of him, the idealization, it wasn't just about comparing me to him. It was about her unresolved feelings for someone who had left her abruptly. I'm sorry that happened to you, I said, genuinely meaning it. That's a terrible way to end a relationship. She nodded, her eyes a bit watery. It was. But it's in the past now. I have you. That should have been a turning point. A moment of vulnerability that brought us closer. But the very next day, as I was struggling to parallel park, not my strength, she muttered. My ex could park in the tightest spots without breaking a sweat. Something snapped inside me. All the frustration, the hurt, the constant feeling of inadequacy, it all bubbled to the surface. But instead of exploding, I felt a cold clarity. I knew exactly what I needed to do. The next few days, I pretended everything was fine. I was attentive, affectionate even. She seemed relieved, thinking our issues were behind us. Meanwhile, I was making a plan. We had been dating for about 8 months at this point, not living together, but spending most nights at each other's places. We had a routine, shared spaces in our apartments, talks about the future. There was investment here, emotional and otherwise. On a Friday, while she was at work, I went to her apartment. I had a key. I gathered all my things, the toothbrush, the spare clothes, the books, the chargers. I made sure to leave no trace of myself behind. Then I wrote a note. I need space. I feel suffocated. Goodbye. I left the key on top of the note on her kitchen counter. Then I blocked her number, her social media, her email. Complete digital cutoff, just like her perfect ex had done. Was it petty? Absolutely. Was it immature? Probably. But in that moment, it felt like justice. Let her get a taste of her own medicine. Let her experience again what she had put on such a pedestal. I expected to feel guilty afterward, but all I felt was relief. Like I had finally stood up for myself after months of being made to feel second best. 3 days passed without contact. I was staying at a friend's place, avoiding our usual hangouts. Then, on the 4th day, she showed up at my workplace during lunch break. I hadn't blocked her physically, after all. Her eyes were red, her face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept much. Can we talk? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I agreed, and we went to a nearby cafe. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she wasn't drinking from. Why did you do it like that? She asked finally. Why didn't you just talk to me? I tried talking. Multiple times. You didn't listen. So you decided to break up with me exactly like he did? Do you know how much that hurt? I looked at her steadily. Yes, I do know. Because you never let me forget how amazing he was, even while he hurt you in one of the worst ways possible. Do you see the irony in that? She flinched as if I'd slapped her. I never meant to make you feel bad. I don't know why I kept bringing him up. I do, I said. You never got closure. You never processed that relationship properly. Instead, you idealized him, created this perfect image that no one could live up to, including me. She started crying quietly. I'm sorry. I didn't realize what I was doing to you. To us. Can we start over? I promise I'll never mention him again. Part of me wanted to say yes. Despite everything, I still had feelings for her. But another part knew that the damage was done. Trust had been broken on both sides now. I had stooped to a level I wasn't proud of, and she had shown me how easily she could make someone feel inadequate. I don't think so, I said gently. I think we both need to work on ourselves separately. You need to truly move on from him, and I need to be with someone who sees me for me, not as a comparison to someone else. She nodded, tears still streaming down her face. I understand. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. I'm sorry too, I said, for how I ended things. It was cruel, and you didn't deserve that, regardless of what happened between us. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of our failed relationship hanging between us. Finally, she stood up. Take care of yourself, she said, and walked away. I watched her go, feeling a mixture of sadness, relief, and something like wisdom. Relationships are complicated. People carry their past into their present, sometimes without realizing the damage they're doing. And sometimes, in trying to protect ourselves, we cause damage too. I watched her go, feeling a mixture of sadness, relief, and something like wisdom. Relationships are complicated. People carry their past into their present, sometimes without realizing the damage they're doing. And sometimes, in trying to protect ourselves, we cause damage too. That should have been the end of our story. A clean break, lessons learned on both sides, time to move on. But life is rarely that simple. 2 weeks passed. I threw myself into work, spent time with friends, tried to process everything that had happened. I even started seeing a therapist to talk through my feelings of inadequacy that the relationship had triggered. I was making progress, slowly rebuilding my confidence. Then she texted me from a new number. I know I promised to give you space, but I need to tell you something. Can we meet? I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to maintain the clean break we'd established. But another part was curious. What could be so important that she'd get a new number just to reach me? After an internal debate that lasted nearly an hour, I agreed to meet her at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown that neither of us frequented often. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. She'd remembered how I take mine, black, no sugar. It was a small detail, but one that hit me unexpectedly. Thanks for coming, she said as I sat down across from her. She looked better than the last time I'd seen her, less tired, more put together. I wouldn't have reached out if it wasn't important. What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. She took a deep breath. After everything that happened between us, I did some serious thinking. About why I kept bringing up my ex. About why I couldn't seem to stop comparing you two. I nodded, taking a sip of my coffee. And I started seeing a therapist, she said. And we've been talking a lot about unresolved grief and idealization after loss. She helped me see that I never actually processed the end of that relationship. I just pushed it down and moved on superficially. That makes sense, I said cautiously. I wasn't sure where this was going. The way he left, it was so abrupt. One day we were talking about maybe getting engaged, and the next he was just gone. No real explanation. I think part of me kept him on this pedestal because I couldn't reconcile the person I thought he was with someone who would leave like that. I felt a twinge of empathy despite myself. That's a tough thing to process. She nodded. My therapist suggested something that I thought was crazy at first, but now I'm not so sure. She suggested I try to get actual closure, to reach out to him and ask for an honest conversation about why things ended the way they did. I raised my eyebrows. You're going to contact your ex? The perfect one. She winced a little at my tone. I know how it sounds, but I think she might be right. If I never understand what really happened, I might keep carrying this idealized version of him into every future relationship. And is that why you wanted to meet? To tell me you're going to talk to your ex? She shook her head. No, I wanted to apologize properly. What I did to you, constantly comparing, making you feel less than, it was cruel, even if I didn't fully realize I was doing it. You deserve better. And the way you broke up with me, I understand why you did it now. It made me feel exactly how I'd been making you feel all along. Her words hit me harder than I expected. I'd been holding on to some residual anger, using it as a shield against the hurt. But hearing her take responsibility, without excuses or deflection, softened something in me. Thank you for saying that, I said quietly. It means a lot. She smiled, a sad, small smile. There's something else. After I talk to him, if he even agrees to meet, I'd like to talk to you again. Not to get back together, she added quickly, seeing my expression. Just to share what I learned. I think it might help both of us move forward. I wasn't sure how to respond. On one hand, I'd been working hard to put this relationship behind me. On the other, there was a part of me that was still curious, still looking for understanding. I'll think about it, I said finally. I can't promise anything right now. She nodded. That's fair. Just think about it. And regardless of what you decide, I want you to know that I'm genuinely sorry for what I put you through. We finished our coffees in a silence that wasn't exactly comfortable, but wasn't tense either. As we were getting ready to leave, she hesitated. There's one more thing you should probably know, she said. He reached out to me a few days ago. I frowned. Your ex? The one who blocked you everywhere. She nodded. It was out of the blue. He sent me a friend request on social media, then a message saying he'd like to catch up. I haven't responded yet, but it's a strange coincidence, isn't it? Just as I decide I need closure, he reappears. That is strange, I agreed, feeling an unexpected twist of something in my gut. Jealousy? Concern? I couldn't quite name it. Be careful. I will, she promised. And I'll let you know what happens. If you want me to. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We said goodbye outside the coffee shop, an awkward half-hug that felt both familiar and foreign at the same time. As I walked home, my mind was racing. I hadn't expected to feel so conflicted after seeing her again. I thought I'd moved on, or at least was well on my way. But there was something about the way she'd taken responsibility, the genuine remorse in her eyes, that had thrown me off balance. And then there was this new development with her ex. The timing seemed too convenient. Why would he reach out now after all this time? I told myself it wasn't my problem anymore, but I couldn't shake a feeling of unease. A week passed with no word from her. I tried to focus on my own life. Work was busy, and I'd started rock climbing as a new hobby. But thoughts of her meeting with her ex kept intruding. What would he say to her? Would he apologize for leaving the way he did? Would she realize he wasn't as perfect as she'd made him out to be? Or worse, would seeing him again rekindle something? I caught myself in these thoughts and felt ridiculous. We were broken up. It shouldn't matter to me what happened between them now. But it did. 9 days after our coffee shop meeting, she texted again. I met with him. It wasn't what I expected. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time before responding. When and where? We agreed to meet at a small park near my apartment the next day. It was neutral ground, but more private than a coffee shop for what sounded like a potentially intense conversation. She was sitting on a bench when I arrived, watching a group of children play on a nearby playground. She looked pensive, almost sad. She didn't notice me approaching until I was right in front of her. Hey, I said softly. She looked up, startled. Oh, hi. Thanks for coming. I sat down beside her, leaving a respectful distance between us. So you met with him? She nodded. Yesterday afternoon. We met at a restaurant downtown. How was it? I asked, trying to keep my tone casual even though I was burning with curiosity. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Illuminating. And disappointing. And kind of liberating, all at once. What happened? She turned to face me fully. He's not who I thought he was. Or rather, he's exactly who his actions showed him to be, and nothing like the person I built up in my head. I waited for her to continue. He agreed to meet right away when I reached out. Was very enthusiastic, actually. When I got to the restaurant, I understood why. She paused, taking a deep breath. He's getting divorced. The woman he left me for, he married her 6 months after we broke up, is now leaving him. I felt my eyebrows shoot up. He left you for someone else? You never mentioned that part. She looked down at her hands. I didn't know. Not until yesterday. He told me he'd met someone else, fallen head over heels, and couldn't figure out how to tell me. So instead of having an honest conversation, he just disappeared. Wow, I said, genuinely surprised. That's cowardly, cruel? Yeah, she shook her head. And the worst part is, he seemed to think I'd be sympathetic. Like I'd understand because I'd been through something similar. He actually had the nerve to ask if I had any advice on how to win his wife back. Despite everything, I couldn't help but laugh. Are you serious? He wanted relationship advice from the woman he ghosted. She smiled ruefully. Ironic, isn't it? But sitting there, listening to him talk about himself for an hour, barely asking a single question about my life, it was like seeing him clearly for the first time. He's selfish. Always has been. I just couldn't see it when I was with him because I was so caught up in the good parts. And those perfect qualities I kept hearing about. She winced. Exaggerated. Some were straight up false memories. Like the cooking thing? He could make exactly 2 dishes well. I just remembered them as being amazing because they were special occasion meals. And the parking? He got at least as many tickets as anyone else. I absorbed this information slowly. So the perfect ex was a myth I created, she finished. My therapist says it's a common response to abrupt, unexplained endings. We fill in the blanks with idealized memories because the alternative, accepting that someone we loved could treat us so poorly, is too painful. We sat in silence for a while, watching the children play. Their laughter and shrieks provided a strange soundtrack to our serious conversation. I want to thank you, she said finally. For what? For breaking up with me the way you did. It was a wake-up call. If you just had a normal breakup conversation, I might have kept idealizing him, kept carrying that pattern forward. But you made me feel what I'd been doing to you. It forced me to confront some really uncomfortable truths about myself. I didn't know how to respond to that. Part of me was glad my actions had helped her grow, but another part still felt uncomfortable with how I'd handled things. I'm not proud of how I ended things, I admitted. It was petty and passive-aggressive. It was, she agreed. But it was also effective. Sometimes we need to feel the impact of our actions to truly understand them. Another silence fell between us, more comfortable this time. So what now? I asked eventually. You got your closure. You're seeing a therapist. That's good. She nodded. It is. I feel like I'm finally processing things properly. Learning to be more self-aware. She hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you seeing anyone? The question caught me off guard. No. It's only been a month since we broke up. I'm still working through things. She nodded. Me too. But I've been thinking, would it be crazy to suggest we try again? Not right away, she added quickly. Maybe in a few months, when we've both had more time to work on ourselves. I miss you. The real you. Not a comparison to anyone else. I felt a complicated mix of emotions at her words. There was a pull there, an undeniable attraction that hadn't faded. But there was also caution, a hard-earned wariness. I don't know, I said honestly. A lot happened between us. Trust was broken on both sides. I understand, she said. I'm not asking for an answer now, just for you to think about it. We could start fresh, maybe go on a first date again in a few months. See if there's still something worth exploring. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately. Despite everything, I had genuine feelings for her. But I'd learned the hard way that rushing into emotional decisions rarely led to good outcomes. I'll think about it, I promised. But for now, I think we both need to focus on ourselves. She smiled, and for the first time in our conversation, it reached her eyes. That's fair. And regardless of what you decide about us, I hope we can both find peace with what happened. As we said goodbye, she gave me a gentle hug. Nothing presumptuous, just a warm gesture of friendship? Possibility? I wasn't sure. Walking home, I felt lighter somehow. The conversation had provided a kind of closure I hadn't realized I needed. The perfect ex wasn't so perfect after all. The comparisons that had eaten away at my confidence were based on fiction, not fact. And she had taken responsibility, was actively working to change the patterns that had hurt us both. Did that mean we should try again? I wasn't ready to answer that question yet. But for the first time since our breakup, I felt open to the possibility of a future that included her. Not the person who had constantly compared me to an idealized ghost, but the self-aware woman who had faced her mistakes and was working to grow from them. Time would tell if that was enough to rebuild what we'd broken. For now, it was enough to know that we'd both learned something valuable from our time together and apart. The next few weeks passed in a blur of work and social obligations. I continued seeing my therapist, working through my own issues with self-confidence and communication. She and I texted occasionally. Nothing deep, just checking in. It felt like we were establishing a new kind of relationship, built on more honest foundations. Then came the invitation. A mutual friend was having a birthday party, and we were both on the guest list. It would be the first time we'd be in the same social setting since our breakup. I was nervous, but also curious to see how it would feel to be around her in a group setting. The night of the party arrived. I dressed casually, but put in some effort. Not for her specifically, I told myself, but because it felt good to take care of my appearance. The party was at a bar downtown, the kind with craft beers and board games available to play. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table with a few friends, laughing at something someone had said. Our eyes met across the room, and she gave me a small, uncertain smile. I smiled back and went to get a drink before joining the group. "Hey, everyone," I said, sliding into an empty chair. There were about 8 people at the table, including her. Greetings went around, and for a moment, there was an awkward awareness of the situation. Everyone knew we had dated and broken up. But the birthday celebrant, always good at diffusing tension, launched into a story about a disastrous camping trip, and soon everyone was laughing and the awkwardness faded. Throughout the evening, she and I interacted naturally as part of the group. There were no forced conversations, no obvious tension. Just 2 people who shared a history, navigating a new normal. As the night went on, people shifted around, conversations splintered and reformed. Eventually, she and I ended up next to each other, slightly separated from the others who were now engaged in a heated debate about a TV show. "This isn't as weird as I thought it might be," she said quietly. I smiled. "No, it's not. It's actually kind of nice." She nodded. "I've been thinking about what you said, about focusing on ourselves for now. You were right. These past few weeks have been really important for me." "For me too," I admitted. "I've learned a lot about myself." "Like what?" she asked, seeming genuinely interested. "Like the fact that I tend to bottle things up until they explode. I should have been more direct about how the comparisons were affecting me instead of letting it build up." She nodded. "And I've been learning about why I idealize past relationships. It's a pattern for me, not just with him. My therapist says it's a form of avoidance. Focusing on an idealized past means I don't have to fully engage with the present." Our conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a cake, accompanied by an off-key rendition of Happy Birthday. We joined in. The moment of connection paused, but not forgotten. Later, as the party was winding down, she caught me as I was putting on my jacket to leave. "It was really good to see you tonight," she said. "To know that we can be in the same space without it being painful." "It was," I agreed. "A good first step." She smiled. "First step toward what?" I paused, considering my words carefully. "I'm not sure yet, but I'm open to finding out." Slowly, her smile widened. "I'd like that." As I walked home that night, I reflected on how differently things had turned out than I'd expected. A month ago, I was nursing hurt and anger, convinced our story was over. Now, there was this new possibility unfolding, not a return to what was, but something potentially healthier, built on the lessons we'd both learned. I didn't know if we would end up back together, or if we'd settle into a friendship, or if we'd eventually drift apart again. But for the first time in a long time, the uncertainty didn't feel threatening. It felt like an open door, an invitation to see what might be possible when 2 people commit to growth, honesty, and treating each other with care. The perfect ex was no longer a shadow hanging over us. He was just a person, flawed, human, and ultimately not that important to our story anymore. What mattered now was what we chose to build, together or apart, from the ashes of what had broken.